Have you ever wondered if the long nights of searching, the endless questions, and the whispers from deep within your soul have all been leading you somewhere? Could it be that the restless stirring you felt isn't a sign to keep wandering, but a call to finally step into who you truly are? Chosen one, 7 signs your spiritual awakening is over. It's time to use your powers. You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? Rumi, if you've been walking the path of awakening, searching for signs, questioning your purpose, and doing the deep inner work, this message is for you. The journey of awakening is not meant to last forever. There comes a time when seeking must give way to embodying, when learning must give way to living. In today's message on spiritual wisdom, we're uncovering 7 powerful signs that your spiritual awakening is complete and that it's now time to rise into your true power. Are you ready to stop waiting and start becoming? Have you felt that quiet nudge urging you to step out of the shadows and into the light? Let us know in the comments which sign resonates most with you right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're ready to step into your next chapter. 1. The awakening has ended. Now begins the mission. You didn't awaken just to wander endlessly through the landscape of seeking. That time was never meant to be permanent. It was the initiation, not the destination. A door cracked open, giving you a glimpse beyond the illusion. And now the universe is asking you to step fully into the light of your purpose. You've read the books, watched the signs, healed the wounds, and shed the masks. But awakening is not where your journey ends. It's where your mission begins. So many chosen ones become stuck in the comfort of awakening. They cling to the process as if it were a destination, constantly searching for more answers, more synchronicities, more messages to confirm what they already know deep within. But the universe doesn't give endless confirmations. It gives you a window, a moment, a nudge, and this is it. You've seen through the illusion. The veil has lifted. The layers of false identity have fallen away. Now action is required. You are not meant to keep waiting for perfection, because the world doesn't need perfect. It needs present, awake, aware, aligned. You've been entrusted with insight for a reason. Everything you've been through, the loss, the loneliness, the breaking down of your former self, was preparing you for this moment. And that knowing inside you, the one that doesn't shout but quietly insists, is your power. It is the inner voice that speaks of peace, truth, and boldness. That is your mission calling you forward. You are not just a seeker anymore. You are a carrier of light, a vessel for truth, a walking embodiment of divine wisdom. And the universe is asking you directly, will you use what you've learned, or will you keep hoarding wisdom like a collector of trinkets, never meant to be used? Your spiritual alignment is not passive. It is alive, purposeful, and urgently needed in this world. You are not here merely to feel enlightened. You are here to create, to awaken others, to speak even when it's uncomfortable, to bring into form what doesn't yet exist. There is no more waiting. No more asking for permission. No more lingering at the doorway of possibility. You have already received the signs. You've already been shown who you are. You've walked through fire, stood in the storm, and still you remain standing. Stronger, clearer, chosen. The illusions are no longer convincing. The fear no longer fits. The old hunger for validation has burned away. What remains is your truest self. Ready, able, and undeniably needed. This is the sacred shift, from observation to participation, from awareness to embodiment, from vision to movement. You are the one meant to lead, not because you begged for the role, but because your soul was destined and chosen for it. You are no longer lost in awakening. You are aligned in action, and the universe is watching, listening, ready to respond the moment you step forward in full trust. Are you ready to step into your true mission? If your awakening has prepared you for aligned action, declare it boldly in the comments. I am ready to serve. Your words will not only seal your own commitment, but also ignite others to rise into their purpose. 2. The urgency of this moment. You've been feeling restless for a reason. This is not random anxiety, not confusion pulling at your mind. It is your soul recognizing that you are standing at the threshold of transformation. This restlessness is not a warning. It is a signal, a sacred reminder that your spiritual awakening is shifted. It is no longer just a process. It is now a calling. The time for endless questions, for endlessly collecting teachings, for hiding in preparation is past. You've already gathered the wisdom. Now it is time to embody it. Everything you've endured, the heartbreaks, the solitude, the inner revelations, the long nights of doubt followed by the quiet mornings of clarity, has been leading you here. But here is the truth. Spiritual awakening was never meant to be a forever phase. It was never your final destination. It was your training ground, sharpening you for what comes next. Many remain stuck in the cycle of seeking because it feels safer, because searching can feel easier than acting. But the chosen ones know when it's time to step forward, not by force, but through deep alignment with who they have become. You didn't come here just to feel enlightened. You came to live as enlightenment in action. And that means speaking your truth when it's uncomfortable, trusting your inner knowing over the outer noise, and embodying the peace, the strength, and the wisdom that awakening has revealed to you. This, chosen one, is the moment where you step into mastery, not through perfection, but through presence. In the modern world, it's tempting to believe we always need more knowledge, more signs, more confirmations before we dare to step forward. But have you noticed that chasing more is often just a subtle form of self-doubt? You don't need another guru to validate your path, another message to confirm what you already feel, or another meditation to prove that you're ready. You are ready simply because you exist. You are ready because your breath still flows, steady and alive, reminding you that life itself has chosen you. You are ready because life is calling. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. To serve, to lead, to create, to be. Think of it like someone who spends years training, preparing endlessly, but never steps into the race. At some point, all that preparation becomes a delay tactic, a way to stay safe in the identity of the seeker. But the seeker was never meant to stay hidden. The seeker was always meant to give birth to the doer, the healer, the leader. And you are not here to hide anymore. You are here to rise, to stand, to become. The most powerful version of yourself is not locked away in some distant future. It's not waiting on another sign to arrive. It's the part of you that dares to act with intention today. This is the sacred difference between knowing the light and being the light, between understanding love and walking in love, between talking about alignment and actually living aligned. You've already crossed the hardest threshold. You've awakened. You've seen through the veil. You've touched the truth. Now the only question that remains is, will you live it? Your power was never in the stack of knowledge you collected, but in the embodiment of that knowledge. That is how timelines shift. That is how lives are touched. That is how you fulfill the mission your soul came here to complete. The urgency you feel in your chest is not pressure. It is presence. It is divine. The universe is not rushing you. It is reminding you, whispering to you. This is the moment you have been preparing for all along. Do not hesitate. If you feel that magnetic pull towards something greater, it's because your time is now. No more waiting. No more hiding. Stand in it. Speak it. Declare it. Comment below. I am ready to become who I truly am. If you feel the urgency of stepping fully into your power, then hear this. 3. Awakening was meant to shake and rebuild you. Awakening was never designed to be a permanent state of existence. Its purpose was to burn away everything that was never truly you. Your false identities, your dependence on external validation, your programmed fears and illusions. It came to shake your foundation, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you from the soul upward. You were never meant to live forever in the fire. You were meant to walk through it, to rise from it, and to carry its light forward. Yet so many get stuck along the way. They confuse the path of awakening with the destination itself. And so, they keep reading, listening, meditating, waiting endlessly for some ultimate sign to tell them they are finally ready. But that sign has always been within you. The endless cycle of seeking becomes a trap, a distraction cleverly disguised as spiritual growth. There comes a point when you must stop consuming and start creating. You didn't awaken just to sit in stillness or endlessly gather information. You awakened to move energy, to shift realities, to step fully into alignment with the truth you now know. Your soul was never meant to be only a passive student of wisdom. It came here to apply it. Every piece of knowledge you've absorbed, every wound you've healed, every illusion you've shed, none of it was the end goal. It was preparation. You are not here to simply hold light. You are here to embody it. It is time to become the message you've been listening to, the healing you've been chasing, the strength you've been searching for. You are the answer to someone else's prayer. You are the light at the end of someone else's tunnel. But how can the world receive what you refuse to release? Creation is your next step. Whether it is through writing, speaking, leading, teaching, or simply showing up as your authentic self, this is how your power is activated. This is how it begins to ripple outward. This is how you shift from awakening to embodiment. This is how you move from knowing the truth to living it. Of course, the fear will still whisper. It will tell you that you're not ready, that you need more time. But readiness is not a feeling. It is a choice. The ego waits for perfection, while the soul moves with purpose. And you are ready because you have been called. You are ready because you have walked through fire and survived. You are ready because the world urgently needs what you carry. So, no more waiting. No more questioning. No more shrinking to fit the outdated version of yourself. Awakening shook you for a reason, but the shaking is complete. Now is the time to step forward, to use your power, to become the living embodiment of everything you've learned. The season of seeking is over. The season of becoming has begun. If this message stirred something within you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. It's time to stop consuming and start creating your truth. Comment below. I am ready to rise and build my true self. 4. You were chosen for a purpose. You were chosen for a purpose, not by coincidence, not by accident, but by divine intention. Your awakening was never random. It was a spiritual assignment, a call to remember who you truly are beneath the endless noise of this world. You did not just wake up to feel enlightened. You woke up to become a force of transformation. The spiritual shift unfolding across the planet is not something you're meant to only observe. It is something you were meant to help lead. And this leadership does not arise from ego, power, or control. It flows from alignment, embodiment, and courage. You were called because your soul said yes, long before your mind could understand what it truly meant. You were never meant to sit waiting for angels, guides, or mentors to hand you the answers. They are here, yes, but their role is only to nudge you, not to carry you. Their whispers can remind you, but they cannot act on your behalf. Only you can do that. Only you can stand tall, lift your voice, and say with conviction, I am ready to rise. The chosen ones are not chosen to remain passive. They are chosen to step forward even when it feels inconvenient, even when the path looks uncertain. To walk in truth when the world prefers illusion, to shine brightly when darkness demands silence. This is why you awakened. You are not here to wait endlessly for signs. You are here to be the sign. There comes a moment when learning must give way to doing, when knowing must finally transform into becoming. That moment is now. You've studied the lessons, witnessed the synchronicities, endured the fire of growth. All of it was preparing you for this turning point. The question is no longer, what is my purpose? The real question is, will I live it? The world is aching, longing, for those who are not only spiritually awake, but also spiritually active. Not flawless, not all-knowing, but available, willing, ready to use their voice, their energy, and their presence as vessels of light. You are not asked to save the entire world, but you are asked to show up fully for the part of it that was assigned to you. Living your purpose is not about striving or forcing. It is about surrendering to the truth that already lives inside of you. When you stop waiting for the so-called right time and start walking in divine time, doors open effortlessly. Clarity finds you. People are moved by your energy, not because it's polished or rehearsed, but because it's real. You were chosen because you were built for this very task. Your pain taught you empathy. Your seasons of isolation trained your discernment. Your setbacks forged resilience within you. You are not behind. You are exactly on schedule. And no one else can activate your mission for you. No one else can speak your truth. This responsibility is sacred, and it belongs only to you. You were not chosen to remain hidden. You were chosen to embody the shift. The awakening was just the beginning. Now it is time to rise and become everything you came here to be. If this message has stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of faith. I accept my divine purpose. I am ready to rise and fulfill my calling. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message meant for your awakening. 5. The mission after awakening. Real spiritual maturity is not measured by how many affirmations you recite or by the number of hours you spend in meditation. True maturity is embodiment, where your actions align with your knowing. and where your very presence speaks louder than your words. You've already awakened. You've peeled back the layers, seen through the illusions, and walked through darkness with only your inner light to guide you. But now, the real work begins. Living it. Living truthfully. Living powerfully. Living like someone who remembers why they came here in the first place. You are not here to remain in the cycle of endless seeking. You are here to become the message itself, to carry the vibration of what you've learned so deeply that others can feel it before you even speak. Your power isn't in how much you know, it's in how fully you show up. It's in how you stay calm when everything around you shakes, how you hold your center when life feels like it's unraveling. It's in the way you respond to pain without losing your compassion, in your ability to walk with integrity when no one is watching. That is what it truly means to live your awakening, to carry the light not only in words, but in action. There was once a woman who, after years of reading every spiritual book she could find, found herself completely broken. Her marriage collapsed, her business failed, her health declined. All the knowledge she had collected suddenly felt useless, like empty echoes of wisdom. But in that deep moment of silence, she heard the truth clearly, as if the universe itself whispered, "This is the moment your training was for." And right there, she stopped reaching for new answers and started applying what she already knew. She began showing up not perfectly, but powerfully, grounded, with clarity, with presence. That single shift changed everything because she realized she wasn't meant just to understand the light. She was meant to be it. And isn't that what the world is longing for right now? The world isn't looking for more talkers or more theories. It's crying out for those who embody what they believe, those who don't merely repeat truth, but radiate it through their lives. It's crying out for those who can walk into a storm and still remain calm. And you, yes, you have been chosen for this. Not to hide your light, but to let it lead. Not to wait for more confirmation, but to trust what's already alive inside you. Every delay, every wound, every lesson was preparing you not just to survive, but to lead. And now, the mission begins in earnest. To know the truth, but not live it, is to betray your own soul. The real initiation wasn't the awakening itself. The real initiation is what you do after. This is your invitation to rise, not someday, but now. To move with purpose, to serve with love, to speak with clarity, and to walk with sacred authority. Your journey didn't end at awakening. It started there. And everything that comes next is what you were born for. If this message speaks to your soul, type in the comments, "I'm ready to live the truth," to affirm your commitment. The mission after awakening is real, and it begins with action. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can keep rising together. 6. The 7 signs that your awakening is complete. Sign 1. You no longer feel separate from the universe. You no longer search for divinity outside of yourself because you've realized it was never out there to begin with. The longing to connect with something greater has transformed into the deep knowing that you are that greatness in human form. This is not an intellectual belief. It's an embodied truth. You feel it in your breath, in the space between thoughts, in the quiet awareness that watches everything but resists nothing. You feel oneness with all that is, not as a poetic idea, but as a living presence. The trees, the wind, the laughter of strangers, even the silence between words, All of it feels like part of you now, a seamless field of connection that needs no proof, no explanation. You've stopped labeling experiences as good or bad because you've seen the divine thread that weaves them all together, connecting even the most painful moments with hidden wisdom. Peace is no longer a goal far off on the horizon. It flows from you quietly and naturally, like sunlight spilling through an open window, touching everything it meets without effort. Resistance dissolves, and with it, the weight you once carried. You no longer fight against the unfolding of life because you have tasted the freedom of surrender. And in that surrender lies strength, not weakness. The need to prove yourself, to fix everything, or to force outcomes begins to fade like a shadow in the morning light. You let go, not because you have given up, but because you have awakened to the deeper intelligence that governs all things. And this letting go is powerful. It is an opening, a widening of space where miracles, synchronicities, and alignment rush in. Things that could never be orchestrated by control or force. You've come to realize that your energy is not passive. It is creative, alive, and endlessly shaping the world around you. Every emotion, every intention, every thought is a frequency. And those frequencies shape reality as surely as wind shapes the waves of the ocean. You notice how your internal shift instantly reflects in your external world. When you are at peace, life itself feels effortless. When you fall into fear, chaos seems to arise. This is not punishment. It is reflection, a mirror held up to help you remember. And now, instead of reacting as a victim of circumstance, you respond as a conscious artist, painting the canvas of your own life. The old self, the one that searched endlessly for answers, has dissolved into the quiet power of presence. You no longer need constant validation, spiritual highs, or dramatic signs to reassure you. Your presence itself has become the sign. You are the miracle you once begged for. There is no longer a wall between you and the universe. There is only unity, only flow, only truth whispering in every moment. And from this sacred space, your purpose begins. Not in striving, not in chasing, but in simply being. That is when you know the awakening is complete. Not because you hold all the answers, but because you have stopped asking questions that separate you from what already lives within. Sign 2. Your intuition guides you without doubt. You trust your inner voice fully now, as if it were the compass you had been searching for all along. There is no longer a need for endless signs, approval from others, or carefully crafted pros and cons lists. You just know. The clarity does not come from logic. It comes from alignment. You don't chase certainty anymore, because certainty has already taken root within you. It's no longer about confidence in specific outcomes. It's about confidence in the deep knowing that rests inside your soul. That knowing does not scream. It does not compete. It speaks softly, and you have learned to listen. In this stage, fear is no longer the one making your decisions. Confusion no longer clouds your mind or weighs on your heart. You've outgrown the habit of endlessly seeking outside answers because you have finally realized that your energy, your presence, your very being speaks louder than your thoughts ever could. Your body responds before your mind even finishes the question. The shift happens quietly, subtly, and yet it changes everything. You no longer ask, "Is this the right path?" Instead, you feel it. You sense the expansion that signals truth. You recognize the contraction that warns against misalignment. And you follow that guidance, not because you are sure of what lies ahead, but because you are sure of yourself, anchored in the trust that your soul already knows the way. There's a moment in every chosen one's journey when the need for external validation simply disappears. What replaces it is not arrogance, not pride, it is peace. A deep and unshakable peace that no longer begs for permission, that no longer waits for applause. It is the kind of peace that moves through uncertainty like water flowing around rocks, finding its way with quiet determination to where it is meant to go. You stop chasing endless signs. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Instead, you act because it feels right, because it resonates with your soul, not because it looks right to the world outside. This is the power of deep spiritual alignment, and once you taste it, you cannot return to the old way of seeking. It doesn't ask for proof. It doesn't need to. It simply moves in truth. When you learn to trust your intuition, you no longer stall in endless hesitation. There is a calm decisiveness in your presence, a confidence that doesn't need to shout. People around you may not understand. They might whisper, "You've changed." And the truth is, they are right. You have changed. You've stopped performing for a world that conditioned you to doubt your own wisdom. You've stopped bending yourself to fit expectations that never truly honored who you are. You've chosen to trust the whisper instead of the noise. You've chosen the internal compass over the external map. You no longer ask for directions to a place your soul already knows how to find. This is the sacred transition from awakening to embodiment. Intuition becomes your leadership, guiding you like a lantern in the dark. Faith becomes your foundation, steady and unmovable, even when everything around you shifts. You no longer check 10 times before taking one step. You simply move. And in that movement, life rearranges itself to meet your energy. This is not coincidence, not some random stroke of luck. This is spiritual maturity, the ability to move without constantly needing to be convinced, the ability to know without demanding explanations from the universe. It is the ability to feel alignment and trust it, even when it makes no sense to the outside world. You have graduated from waiting, from questioning, from doubting. Your power now lies in presence, in listening deeply to the quiet pull that whispers, "This way." That quiet pull is your path. That gentle nudge is your direction, and you have learned that following it always leads you closer to truth. And you follow not because it is easy, not because it guarantees comfort, but because it is true. That is the difference. Sign 3. Material desires no longer control you. You no longer chase money, status, or validation because something deeper within you has awakened. You've outgrown the exhausting need to impress others with what you wear, what you own, or how much you earn. Your soul no longer feeds on the fleeting spark of attention. Instead, you find nourishment in alignment, in authenticity, in purpose. Material things can still bring you joy, of course, but they no longer define you. They no longer pull you into cycles of overworking, proving, or pretending. You've remembered who you are beyond the brands, beyond the titles, beyond the applause. This is the sign of true transformation. For when you stop chasing, you finally start attracting. And this is how the law of attraction really works. It doesn't respond to your desperation. It responds to your vibration. The energy you carry now speaks louder than your words. You've chosen peace over pressure, purpose over possessions, essence over image. The old version of you needed more just to feel like enough. But now, in this state of deep awakening, you have realized the truth. You are already enough, with or without more. And from that place of wholeness, abundance flows to you with ease, as naturally as a river flowing to the sea. You've discovered that fulfillment isn't found in what you accumulate, in how much you can display, or in the fleeting thrill of applause. True fulfillment lives in how deeply you align, how clearly you honor the truth within. No amount of luxury can ever compare to the richness of inner peace. No amount of praise can replace the still, steady voice of your spirit whispering, "I am home." You've realized that manifestation was never about owning everything. It was always about owning your truth, standing firmly in it, and letting life rise to meet you there. Your energy is the currency now, and the way you spend it changes everything. And when you choose to invest it in what's real, gratitude, growth, presence, love, the universe multiplies your return in ways no material reward ever could. You are no longer a servant to material desires. You are now the master of your reality. Your spiritual awakening has sharpened your vision so you can see through illusions, through the false promises that once distracted you. And now you walk with power. Not the kind of power that shouts, grasps, or demands attention, but a quiet, magnetic power rooted in detachment and clarity, a power that speaks before you say a word. And because of this shift, life begins to meet you differently. Opportunities arrive not because you hustle endlessly, but because you are finally in harmony with yourself. People feel it. They sense your calm, your focus, your light, and they are drawn to it like travelers finding warmth in a fire. This is freedom. You're no longer running breathlessly after things, hoping they'll complete you. You're standing still in your truth, and all that is meant for you begins to arrive, often faster than you imagined. You no longer beg for doors to open. They open naturally when you knock with clarity and purpose. You no longer sacrifice your peace just to keep up with the world's pace. Instead, you slow down, and life itself speeds up in your favor. The more you surrender, the more you receive, not through force, but through flow. Not through desperation, but through alignment. Not through noise, but through stillness. Sign 4. You have embraced solitude and found peace. Silence no longer unsettles you the way it once did. Now, it empowers you. What once felt like an empty void has become a sacred sanctuary where your spirit breathes and your mind finally rests. You've stopped resisting the stillness, and instead, you've learned to listen to what it reveals. In the quiet, you no longer hear the echo of loneliness or the weight of fear. Instead, you hear your truth, clear and unwavering. Silence has become your teacher, your healer, your refuge. It is where you recharge, where you reconnect, where you remember who you are when the noise of the world falls away. You've begun to honor your energy so deeply that anything misaligned simply cannot remain in your space. You no longer tolerate conversations that feel empty, or relationships that pull you away from your peace. You don't shrink yourself to fit into old spaces, nor do you pretend to be less so that others feel more. This is spiritual awakening in motion, steady, subtle, but unstoppable. It is the silent refusal to entertain what drains your soul. It is the unseen strength of walking away from noise, not out of bitterness or pride, but out of wisdom. You've outgrown superficiality and stepped into alignment. And now your vibration speaks long before you do. Being alone no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like home, like a return to the core of your being, where nothing is missing and everything is whole. You've stopped seeking constant connection because you've cultivated the most powerful one of all, the connection with yourself. You no longer crave constant chatter, endless validation, or the comfort of crowds to feel whole. You enjoy your own presence now, almost as if you've come home to a friend you had forgotten. You understand that solitude is not emptiness, it is sacred space. It is a sanctuary where your soul speaks in a language the world cannot hear. It's in your stillness that new visions are born, like seeds breaking through soil in the quiet of dawn. It's in your isolation that your purpose gets louder, clearer, undeniable. You've reached a state where your inner world is so full, so vibrant, that you no longer need external noise to feel alive. You have become magnetic, not by force, but by presence, by the quiet gravity of someone who knows who they are. Solitude has sharpened your discernment. It has made you precise with your time, intentional with your focus, and protective of your peace. Now you recognize that every encounter, every word, every thought carries energy, and you choose with care what you allow into your sacred space. Your boundaries are no longer walls built out of fear. They are invitations, gentle but firm, for only what is pure, true, and aligned. Your aura is no longer porous. It is powerful, radiant, steady. You no longer beg to be understood. You simply continue to evolve, trusting that those meant for your frequency will feel your light without explanation. You have stopped chasing and started attracting. You understand the law of attraction not as a tool of control or manipulation, but as a reflection of energetic alignment. You no longer manifest from desperation, hoping to fill a void. You manifest from peace, from clarity, from presence. Your life has become a living prayer, and your solitude has become the altar. In this sacred stillness, manifestation flows like breath, effortless, natural, constant. There is no force, only flow. This is spiritual maturity in motion. This is what it means to awaken and rise, not in chaos, but in calm, not in noise, but in knowing. You are no longer searching for peace. You are living as peace. And because of that, your presence now shifts rooms, not by what you say, but by who you've become. Sign 5. You naturally attract people who need your light. People are drawn to you because your energy has become a silent call, a beacon that speaks to hearts before words are even exchanged. You no longer seek validation or attention. Instead, your very presence radiates something real, something pure, something unmistakably alive. It's not about the words you speak anymore. It's about the frequency you carry, the vibration you embody. After everything you've been through, the lessons, the healing, the shedding of false layers, you now emit a vibration that speaks louder than any voice. Others can feel it even if they cannot name it. They may not know why they feel safe around you, why their shoulders relax, or why they suddenly open up their deepest truths. But something about you feels like home, like truth, like light. That's because you've become a vessel for something greater. And in a world where most are still asleep, that makes you magnetic. As your light expands, you begin to notice a pattern. The people entering your life are no longer random. They're reflections, mirrors, messengers. Some walk alongside you for a while because their soul resonates with your path. Others arrive with chaos in their hearts, seeking peace they haven't yet cultivated. And then there are those who don't even understand why they're drawn to you. They just know that your presence soothes something inside them, like a quiet reminder of who they truly are. That's what happens when your spiritual awakening is complete. You stop needing answers, and you start becoming one. You begin to embody the very truth you once sought, and people can feel it even before you speak. You attract not because you try, but because you are. Energy doesn't lie. And your energy now tells a story of strength, clarity, and peace. But the truth is, not everyone who is drawn to your light is worthy of it. Some come to take, to drain, to feed off the peace you've built with blood, sweat, and sacred tears. These are the ones who haven't yet faced themselves, who are drawn to the glow without understanding the work behind it. They want your frequency without doing the work to raise their own vibration. They want the fruits without planting the seeds. And this is why your next step, now that your awakening has matured, is to master spiritual boundaries. You cannot pour into everyone, no matter how much you care. Your light is powerful, but it's also sacred. And sacred things must be protected. You must learn to say no with grace, to walk away when your peace is at stake, to shield your energy like a priceless treasure. Because it is. Imagine a temple of light. Would you leave its doors open for anyone to wander in? The same applies to your soul. There's a woman who once gave all of herself to everyone, friends, students, even strangers. Her presence felt healing to others, and they would come to her uninvited, desperate for light. At first, she thought this was her purpose, to be the light for others at any cost. But over time, she began to feel drained, disconnected, even resentful. That's when she realized a powerful truth. Being the light doesn't mean you set yourself on fire to warm others. It means protecting the flame so it can keep burning. She learned to protect her energy, to only give from a place of overflow, not obligation. And from that space, her light didn't fade. It grew stronger, steadier, more radiant than before. You've reached that point now. You're not here to save everyone. You're here to be the frequency that reminds others of their own power. Your energy has become a transmission, a signal for those ready to rise. So guard it. Own it. Understand this. Your presence is no longer just a gift. It's an invitation. But only those with the courage to honor it should be allowed through the door. Sign 6. You can see through deception and illusions. Your sight has sharpened in ways that go beyond the physical. You can now sense deception with a kind of spiritual precision that wasn't available to you before. Lies feel heavy in the air. Manipulation stands out like flashing lights, even in a crowded room. Even the subtle illusions embedded in society, systems, media, politics, expectations, no longer have power over your mind. You don't just see things on the surface anymore. You see through them. The masks people wear, the narratives they repeat, the stories designed to keep you small. What used to confuse or control you has lost its grip. And that's because your inner truth has grown louder than the world's noise. You are no longer ruled by fear-based control systems. Fear may still exist around you, but it doesn't live in you anymore. You no longer respond to the fear-mongering headlines, the emotional manipulation from others, or the energetic pressure to conform. You've unplugged from the frequency of fear and tuned into the higher vibration of truth. Now your compass is clarity, not panic. Your guide is intuition, not anxiety. And in that clarity, you walk freely, grounded in a power that no illusion can touch. You weren't built to stay still. You were never designed to remain hidden or small. There's a fire rising inside of you now, a sacred flame that can't be tamed by passivity or fear. It keeps whispering, then roaring, "Move!" You're ready to step forward, not because you know every detail of the path, but because the silence of inaction has become louder, heavier, more unbearable than the fear of failure itself. Even without absolute certainty, you feel ready in your bones. You may not have every step perfectly laid out before you, but something deep within keeps urging you on. You may not have perfect clarity or external validation, yet you move. Why? Because something in you knows that this is the moment you were preparing for. You've stopped asking for permission and started walking with intention. You've let go of waiting for a sign outside of you because you've become your own confirmation. The knowing within you is now stronger than the questions around you, louder than the doubts in the air. And even in uncertainty, you are grounded in trust. That trust has become your foundation. Steady, solid, and unshakable. That inner fire is your compass, glowing brighter with every step. Each day, the mission calls to you louder, and you no longer ignore it or push it aside. You understand now that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect. It means being willing. Willing to show up. Willing to risk. Willing to be seen. You're no longer just a student of awakening. You've become the embodiment of its completion, the living example of its truth. You've shifted from absorbing light to radiating it outward. You've stopped consuming truth like a concept and started living it as your reality. This is your moment of transition, your turning point, the sacred crossing from seeker to one who serves. What once felt like a distant calling now feels like a command from your soul. You don't need to have all the answers mapped out. You need only to take the next faithful step. You were never meant to awaken just to stay awake. You were meant to awaken so you could rise, lead, heal, and create. The time is no longer someday. The time is now. As we uncover these 7 signs together, take a moment to honor how far you've come on your spiritual path. Reflect. How many storms did you walk through to get here? How many times did you choose to rise instead of retreat? Your very presence here shows you're not just awakening. You're evolving, transforming into who you were always meant to be. Comment below. My awakening is complete, and I am ready to live in truth. Let this be your affirmation, your silent yet powerful declaration as you step into your highest self. Your awakening was never the end. It was the beginning of your true purpose. Now it's time to embody everything you've learned and use your gifts with courage and confidence. The world needs your light more than ever, and it's waiting for you to step fully into it. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear these words, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more powerful insights. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss another moment of your soul's journey. Your time is now. Step forward. Shine boldly. And remember Carl Jung's warning about empaths. It's not just a caution. It's a call to protect your sacred energy as you rise. It's darker than you think. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that awakening begins with awareness, and for empaths, that awareness often feels like both a gift and a burden, a light that illuminates, but also a weight that presses down on the heart. In this video, we'll explore Carl Jung's deeper and more unsettling warning about the empathic path, truths that are rarely spoken, but urgently needed. These insights are not just abstract theories. They are mirrors, reflections to help you navigate your emotions, protect your sacred energy, and grow into your highest self. As you take in these words, pause and ask yourself, how has your empathy shaped your relationships and your identity? Has it made you stronger, or has it sometimes left you feeling drained? Share your reflections in the comments, and let's awaken together as a community that truly understands. 1. Empathy is an archetypal gift, not just an emotional one. True empaths are not simply sensitive souls who pick up on feelings. They are conduits, channels through which unseen forces move. While modern culture often paints empathy as a soft, harmless, and gentle ability, Jung's deeper insight revealed something far more complex, even unsettling. The empath does not simply feel with others. They absorb emotional energy like a sponge, often without realizing it, carrying the unresolved pain of individuals, the unspoken tension of the collective, and even the echoes of ancestral trauma woven through generations. This is not mere sentimentality. This is soul work at the deepest level. Empathy, in its truest form, is archetypal, belonging not to the ego, but to the vast, mysterious realm of the unconscious. Jung understood that empaths are intimately connected to universal patterns, powerful archetypes that stretch far beyond personal experience. They are tapped into the undercurrent of humanity's unspoken sorrow, the hidden grief that humanity itself often refuses to face. And this is why their burden is so heavy. An empath may feel grief without any visible cause, carry anxiety that has no root in their personal life, or awaken with dread that belongs not to them, but to the emotional atmosphere of society itself. This profound capacity to feel so deeply and widely isn't always a blessing. In fact, it can be torment. Empaths often suffer because they don't know where their emotions end and where another's begin. They walk through the world absorbing the invisible, waging a quiet battle between light and shadow, a battle most people don't even realize is happening. This is not a gift for the faint of heart. And it is rarely acknowledged for the immense spiritual weight it carries. Without awareness, the empath may drown in what they carry. But with spiritual wisdom, they learn to navigate the tides. They begin to recognize the difference between what is theirs and what belongs to the collective. The danger lies in this. The world does not often recognize the true empath. Instead of honoring them as sacred mirrors, society dismisses them as too emotional, too sensitive, too dramatic. In truth, the empath is not exaggerating. They are reflecting back what others cannot bear to face within themselves. Their energy exposes repression. Their presence stirs buried pain. And this is why many people unconsciously reject them, not because of who they truly are, but because of what their presence awakens. This is Carl Jung's warning in motion. Without discernment, the empath suffers twice, first from the pain they carry, and then from the rejection of a world unwilling to see. That is why spiritual wisdom teaches that energy must not only be felt, it must be discerned. And this is the empath's sacred task, to learn what is theirs to carry and what is not. To recognize that their gift is real, but it is not limitless. This requires deep boundaries, not rigid walls, but intelligent filters that allow truth and clarity to pass while blocking distortion, confusion, and emotional debris. Without this vital skill, the empath inevitably becomes a silent dumping ground for the collective shadow, absorbing pain that was never theirs to carry. Yet when this capacity is mastered, their sensitivity transforms into a true superpower, refined, steady, and precise. Not for attention, not for approval, but for alchemy. The empath's calling was never about comfort or applause. They are here to transform pain into presence, to turn emotion into awareness, and to shift darkness into light. That is the deeper role Jung pointed to, the role that stretches far beyond the romanticized image of the empath as merely kind and gentle. Instead, it is the archetypal vessel, one who holds space for the unseen and transmutes it into something new. And if one does not understand this role, if one steps into it without preparation, they risk being consumed by it, swallowed whole by the very energies they're here to transform. But when seen through the lens of spiritual wisdom, empathy becomes something else entirely, not a burden, but a sacred path, a discipline of the soul. Have you ever felt emotions that didn't seem to belong to you? Like you were carrying the weight of something ancient, something collective, something no one else around you could name? That experience is not just your imagination. It's the signature of your archetypal sensitivity. Share your experience in the comments below so others can feel seen and validated too. Because your story might be the mirror someone else needs. And if you're just starting to explore your empathic gift, type, "I'm open to understanding so we can walk this path of spiritual discovery together." Because the empath's path, though demanding, is also deeply transformative when met with awareness. 2. Unconscious empathy leads to possession and self-loss. When empaths operate unconsciously, they don't just feel other people's emotions. They become entangled in them, woven into stories and sorrows that are not their own. Without clear boundaries, they absorb emotional pain like a sponge, often mistaking it for their own struggles. They carry the weight of unresolved trauma, shadows, and psychic debris that do not belong to them. This isn't simply compassion, it's energetic possession. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. For the unaware empath, this fate takes the form of emotional confusion, chronic fatigue, and the gradual erasure of self. Their identity begins to blur at the edges. Their center becomes unstable, as if the ground beneath their feet is dissolving. They begin to live in a state of constant emotional flooding, like a mirror that reflects every wound but forgets its own face. This merging of energies is dangerous because it pulls the empath into other people's inner chaos, leaving them haunted by emotions that aren't theirs. Sometimes these inner disturbances surface in dreams, mirrors that twist their reflection, caves that trap them in darkness. Ghost-like figures whispering symbols of energies that need release. These are not just poetic images. They are the language of the unconscious trying to speak, a hidden code calling for recognition. They reveal a life lived too much for others, a self that has been eclipsed by what it carries. The empath becomes a silent witness to pain, yet internally cries out for boundaries that were never taught. And so, the spiritual burden deepens, layer upon layer. True spiritual awakening begins not with more feeling, but with more awareness, with the clarity that allows an empath to see where they end and the world begins. It is not about absorbing more, but about learning what to let go. The empath must awaken to the fact that their ability to feel is not a curse, but neither is it a blank check to carry everyone's suffering indefinitely. They must stop confusing love with self-sacrifice, stop equating kindness with depletion, and instead begin to embody discernment, the quiet wisdom to know what is theirs to hold and what is theirs to release. Like a gardener pruning what no longer serves, the empath learns to protect the roots of their own energy. This awakening demands inner work, deep grounding practices, energetic boundaries, and the courage to confront long-standing patterns of over-responsibility. It is only when the empath reclaims their energy that true healing begins to unfold. Spiritual awakening is not an escape, but the process of returning to the self, not the role, not the mask, not the emotional caretaker, but the soul behind it all, shining steadily beneath layers of survival. The empath must learn to stand still in their own truth, without flinching, without shrinking, without merging into the noise around them. As Rumi said, don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day, your pain will become your cure. For the awakened empath, that cure arrives the moment they finally stop rescuing others at the cost of abandoning themselves. They stop mistaking depletion for devotion. They don't stop loving, but they stop leaking. They don't stop caring, but they stop collapsing. They become clear vessels of light rather than foggy mirrors of everyone else's sorrow. And in that clarity, they don't just survive, they rise. Their presence shifts from being a sponge to being a beacon. If this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below so that others may find this reflection too. 3. Childhood trauma and ancestral pain shape the empath's identity. Many empaths don't become sensitive because they were born that way. They become empaths because they had to. In chaotic or emotionally unstable homes, they learned early on that tuning into others was a matter of safety, not choice, and their nervous systems were trained to anticipate danger long before their minds could understand it. This wasn't a gift at first. It was survival. A child who has to monitor their parents' every mood to avoid punishment or rejection will grow up to become an adult who scans every room for danger, even if it's emotional, even if it's invisible. What looks like intuition is often the refined skill of reading people, developed under pressure, under fear, under silence. This ability, though praised later, began as vigilance. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For empaths, this couldn't be more true. Many are driven by unconscious wounds from the past, shaped by experiences they couldn't control. Worse still, it's not just personal trauma they carry. It's ancestral, the grief and unresolved pain of previous generations, passed down quietly through behaviors, emotional suppression, and spiritual disconnection. Empaths are often the ones in the family system who feel it all, who absorb what others deny. But without healing, that gift becomes a weight. They feel everything, but understand very little of where it comes from. The result is exhaustion, confusion, and self-neglect, a life of emotional overextension without clear roots. Take the example of a woman named Sarah. As a child, she lived in a home where her father was kind one moment and emotionally cold the next. To survive, she learned to become hyper-aware. She could sense when to speak, when to disappear, and when to comfort others at the expense of herself. That gift earned her praise later in life, People loved her empathy, her warmth, her ability to get them. Yet they rarely saw the cost she had paid to develop it. But what they didn't see was the cost. Behind that emotional radar was a little girl who had never learned how to turn it off, who carried the constant hum of everyone else's feelings like static in her mind. Like many empaths, Sarah was living in reaction to her past, not in connection with her present. Carl Jung called this pattern the archetype of the wounded healer, those who seek to mend others while quietly avoiding their own pain, as though healing others could fill the hollow inside. Many empaths unconsciously fall into this very pattern. They don't just help others out of compassion, they do it out of compulsion, driven by a hidden belief that if they can fix the outside world, perhaps their inner world will finally feel safe. But this is a trap, because empathy without boundaries is not love. It is self-abandonment dressed in kindness. And when empathy becomes a reflex, not a conscious choice, it begins to drain you. You give and give until there is nothing left, until your body feels weary and your spirit feels invisible. And then, quietly, you wonder why no one seems to notice the depth of your sacrifice. The truth is simple yet liberating. Healing begins when you stop making your empathy a job and start making it a choice. You don't owe the world your exhaustion. You owe yourself restoration. You don't need to carry the pain of every person you meet in order to prove your worth. Your sensitivity is sacred, yes, but it was never meant to be wielded as a shield of self-protection or as a heavy burden. It was always meant to guide you, not enslave you. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom teaches us that the shadow we don't face becomes the life we unconsciously live. If your empathy was shaped in trauma, then your task is to reclaim it through awareness. Turn it from a reaction into a sacred practice. Learn to feel without losing yourself. This is not about feeling less, but about feeling wisely, with intention and clarity. Do you feel this truth in your bones? If so, let it echo within you and declare it boldly in the comments. I am healing generations through my empathy. 4. The shadow side of empathy must be confronted. Empathy can be a quiet disguise for the ego. Beneath the surface of care, there often lies a deep, unspoken need to be seen as important, to be irreplaceable, to be the one others cannot do without. This craving to help can subtly shift into something less about love and more about control, though we rarely admit it. What appears as compassion can, in fact, be a silent strategy to escape our own wounds. Carl Jung understood this paradox deeply, that even our most admired traits carry a shadow side. When we give endlessly, we may tell ourselves it is because we care. But sometimes, we give because we are afraid to look within, afraid of what we might find if we stopped fixing everyone else. Overhelping becomes a pattern. It looks like love, but it is laced with fear. It is the fear of not mattering unless we are needed. It is the avoidance of our own inner pain by fixing the pain of others. And when this happens, empathy no longer serves healing. It serves ego survival. We become emotionally entangled, mistaking sacrifice for virtue and self-erasure for devotion. In truth, we are often trying to soothe ourselves by saving someone else. This kind of empathy is exhausting. It drains the soul because it is not rooted in wholeness, but in fragmentation. We overextend. We absorb pain that was never ours to carry. We merge so deeply with others' suffering that we forget who we are. And the deeper tragedy is this: in trying to be everything for everyone, we slowly disappear ourselves. What we call compassion becomes a mask we wear, a disguise to avoid facing our own unmet needs. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom urges us to step back, not to stop caring, but to care consciously, to pause and ask ourselves, is this love, or is this fear in disguise? The true empath does not rescue to avoid loneliness. They don't absorb pain to feel worthy. They don't give endlessly just to be loved. Instead, they slowly learn the art of holding space without losing themselves, of offering presence without erasing their own essence. They begin to recognize the subtle moments when their helping is actually hiding, when their giving is actually a mask for their own unspoken needs. They set energetic boundaries not out of coldness, but out of clarity, like a lighthouse guiding ships while still remaining firmly on the shore. Empathy without boundaries becomes codependency. Compassion without awareness becomes emotional manipulation. This is the dark side that must be acknowledged, the shadow no one wants to face. Yet it is only when we confront these truths honestly that our empathy transforms into power. And not the power to fix others, but the power to remain rooted in our own center while still offering love freely. Jung teaches that everything we do, even what looks good or noble, must be examined through the lens of self-awareness. Because healing is never about giving all of ourselves away until nothing remains. Healing is about becoming whole within, so that what we offer is clean, steady, free, and conscious. The real spiritual wisdom is this: empathy is not just about feeling what others feel. It is about knowing when the feeling is not yours to carry, when it belongs to someone else. Can you tell the difference? If you are ready to confront the shadow side of your empathy and reclaim your true self, speak it out loud and make it real. I choose truth over illusion. Let us walk this path of self-awareness together, side by side, with courage and clarity. 5. The true empathy requires boundaries and inner strength. True empathy is not about becoming a sponge for other people's emotions, not about soaking in every drop of pain until you no longer know where their suffering ends and yours begins. That is emotional fusion, not compassion. Real empathy is witnessing without merging, listening without drowning. It is the art of holding sacred space for another soul while remaining anchored in your own. It is the strength to say, I feel you, but I am not you. And that single sentence marks the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Because to awaken is not simply to feel more, it is to see more clearly, to recognize the invisible line where your energy ends and another's begins. Without that clarity, empaths are not gifted. They are exhausted, drained, dissolved into the chaos of the world around them. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That includes the part of you that longs to help, heal, and hold everyone, but also the part that must learn to say no. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are spiritual muscles forged through discernment and self-trust, the quiet strength that protects love from turning into self-destruction. A sponge absorbs everything indiscriminately, but a sovereign vessel chooses what it allows in. An empath who is awakened is no longer a victim of energy. They are a guardian of it. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is raw perception, a heightened awareness of life's subtleties. But when left untrained, it quickly becomes suffering, like a flood with no banks to hold it. You cannot save others by losing yourself. Empathy without grounding becomes self-erasure, a slow fading of your own identity. But empathy with inner strength becomes a radiant force of healing. You don't need to become harder. You need to become clearer. Clear about your limits, clear about your role, clear about the truth that your purpose is not to carry everyone, but to hold light and truth when others have forgotten them. This is the path from sponge to sovereign, the sacred journey from drowning helplessly in emotion to becoming a vessel of divine clarity and strength. It is spiritual wisdom brought to life, the awakening of selfhood, not the denial of it. The more you truly know yourself, your limits, your essence, your truth, the less likely you are to confuse someone else's chaos for your responsibility. Isn't that the real freedom, to feel without being consumed? The world does not need more people who are endlessly overwhelmed, carrying every burden until they collapse. The world needs more people who feel deeply, yet still remain rooted, steady like a tree in the storm. That is true empathy. That is real spiritual awakening. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on transforming empathy from emotional overload into grounded strength and sacred boundaries. 6. Conscious empathy is alchemical and transformative. When an empath awakens to this truth, something profound begins to unfold within them. They stop being crushed beneath the emotions of others, and instead start transmuting that pain into insight, into living wisdom. No longer a passive vessel for suffering, the conscious empath becomes a living mirror, not of wounds, but of possibility and healing. They begin to reflect strength, clarity, and presence, instead of absorbing confusion and emotional heaviness. This is the alchemical power of conscious empathy, the hidden treasure Carl Jung hinted at when he said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." Instead of rushing to rescue others and losing themselves in the process, awakened empaths learn the higher path, to hold space. They guide through their presence, not through control. They love without attachment, without draining their spirit dry. Their empathy no longer burns them out. It lights the way forward for others. Jung understood that the unconscious drives most of human behavior, and this is where the conscious empath shines. By reflecting truth back to another person, they disrupt the invisible patterns that keep that soul asleep. Their very presence can awaken hidden potential in others, because they have already done the work to awaken their own. This kind of empathy is not weak or fragile. It requires deep inner strength. It is sharp, clear, and unwavering. The kind of empathy that can see through projection, through manipulation, through the masks people wear. A conscious empath can feel everything and still remain centered. They know now that not every emotion they sense belongs to them, and not every soul in pain is theirs to heal. Take Jenna, for example, a nurse and a natural empath. For years, she spent her days absorbing the pain of her patients, carrying it home like a heavy cloak each night. She thought her exhaustion was simply part of being a good person. But after stumbling upon Carl Jung's writings and beginning to explore the unconscious roots of her behavior, Jenna came to a revelation. Her empathy had quietly become martyrdom. She was bleeding herself dry in the name of love. Slowly, she began to build boundaries, not as walls to shut others out, but as sacred containers to preserve her own energy, to protect the light she carried, so she could share it without losing herself. She stopped identifying with pain and started channeling it into presence. Today she still feels deeply, but she no longer drowns in the waves of emotion as she once did. Instead, she moves like someone who has learned to breathe underwater. She reflects strength now because she has claimed her own. Empathy without consciousness is chaos, a storm without direction. But empathy fused with self-awareness becomes spiritual clarity, like a lighthouse guiding ships safely through the dark. It transforms a reactive emotion into intentional connection, shifting from survival to sacred purpose. It stops being about endlessly taking on the burdens of others and starts being about illuminating the truth within them. Like holding up a mirror to their hidden light. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." True empathy is not blind sacrifice. It is transmutation, the art of transforming what once crushed you into something that elevates. And when you learn to feel everything without losing yourself, when you choose presence over performance, you don't just heal, you become the healer. You don't carry the weight of the world anymore. Instead, you carry the light that helps others see their own. That light is steady, clear, and unshakable. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a comment of intention. I choose conscious empathy. I transmute pain into light. And don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on walking the path with clarity, strength, and love. 7. The journey requires individuation and daily self-awareness. The empath's path is not merely about feeling deeply. It is about becoming radically self-aware. Carl Jung never romanticized empathy. He saw it as a profound psychic function that, if left unchecked, could spiral into distortion, projection, and exhaustion. The true journey of the empath is individuation, the lifelong work of becoming whole through conscious self-reflection, shadow integration, and inner alignment. To walk this path is to commit to a daily discipline of asking, "Is this mine?" A question that may sound simple, yet it carries immense spiritual weight. Because without asking it, the empath risks carrying burdens that never belonged to them in the first place. This sacred question creates a pause, a moment of sovereignty, where the empath chooses clarity over confusion, strength over absorption. In that moment of pause, spiritual wisdom begins to take root. Empathy becomes conscious rather than compulsive. You no longer believe every feeling is yours. Instead, you learn to feel with discernment and boundaries. And that is not coldness. It is a sacred responsibility, a higher form of love. Jung warned that when we avoid the work of individuation, we inevitably project our unhealed parts onto others, scattering our inner wounds into the world around us. Empaths, by their very nature, become mirrors for that projection. They often absorb unresolved pain, guilt, or shame that others unconsciously disown. The result? Emotional overload, spiritual fatigue, and a slow erosion of the self. That is why individuation is not optional for the empath. It is essential. It is not about detaching from the world, but about anchoring more deeply into your own truth, so that when you do give, you give from a place of wholeness and power. Emotional honesty becomes your compass, not just in relationships with others, but also within the hidden corridors of your own inner world. You stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others, realizing that every time you do, a piece of your soul grows dim. You stop mistaking spiritual martyrdom for compassion, no longer confusing endless sacrifice with true love. Slowly, you begin to see with new eyes that being an empath is not about being everything for everyone. It is about becoming whole for yourself, reclaiming the parts of you that were scattered in the name of pleasing, fixing, or saving. And the more whole you become, the more grounded and powerful your empathy becomes. It transforms from reaction to presence, from chaos to clarity, from noise to signal. Your intuition sharpens like a finely tuned instrument. Your energy stabilizes, no longer leaking into every demand around you. You become a calm, steady center in a world full of noise and distraction, a grounding presence others instinctively feel. That is the true gift of spiritual wisdom. It doesn't numb your sensitivity or strip away your compassion. It hones it, polishes it, makes it clear and unshakable. It teaches you that your light isn't meant to be a lifeline for everyone drowning, for you were never called to save the entire ocean. Your light is meant to be a beacon, steady on the shore, showing others what self-possession, integrity, and inner sovereignty look like. The empath who walks the path of individuation no longer asks in desperation, "How do I help everyone?" but instead asks, "How do I stay true to myself in every interaction?" That single shift changes everything. It is not selfishness, it is sacred alignment. Because when you honor your own energy, you stop leaking it into people, places, and problems that were never yours to heal. You begin to trust that your presence, your truth, your clarity, without overextension, is enough. And that is when you move from merely surviving empathy to embodying it fully, with grace, with power, and with peace. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. Comment below. I commit to my daily journey of self-awareness and soul alignment. Let this be your declaration. And so remember, being an empath is not just about feeling deeply. It's about carrying unseen burdens, navigating invisible forces, and walking a path that few truly understand. Carl Jung's warning reminds us that the gift of sensitivity is also a responsibility, a sacred calling to face what others deny and to see what others cannot bear to look at. If this message spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with those who need to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on notifications so you never miss another insight that could transform your inner world. Your journey is sacred. Let us walk it together